Thanks for joining, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar with our partner, Ernan Roman of ERDM VoC Research Innovators. We're very excited to be here today talking about how companies can transform trust through deep CX in these new times. A couple of quick notes before we get started. There's a chat box at the bottom right hand of your screen where you can ask questions at any time. We'll have a live Q&A at the end of the webinar, and a full recording will be available immediately following today's event. I'm Scott Frey, founder and CEO of PossibleNow and our subsidiary Compliance Point. 20 years ago, I founded PossibleNow as a marketing compliance solution provider, but we've evolved to do so much more. We leverage customer research to design customized solutions comprised of process, technology, expertise, and best practices for companies to engage with their customers in a relevant and trusted way. PossibleNow exists for one reason. We empower the individual's voice so that trust is built and relationships are enriched. This statement has become our North Star, shaping the relationships we want to have with our customers and steering us towards ideas, products, and strategies we can use to help them engage more authentically with their customers. Trust is a core value of our organization. Looking beyond the basic company-customer interactions of today, this new pandemic environment has put a renewed emphasis on trust in the marketplace. We believe that today's customer is pivoting towards a new standard of how they evaluate the businesses they engage with. And this pandemic has raised the bar on companies to develop trusting relationships with their customers. In a recent study by Accenture of 25,000 global consumers, they found that when consumers decided to switch their businesses to a new brand, 46% did so because they lost trust in the previous company. Our stance is that customer trust is becoming the currency of business. A company's ability to manage and measure customer trust has emerged as a significant competitive advantage. And we believe that empowering the voice of the customer can significantly improve your chances to win. Effective VoC research captures real word, real emotions, and human insights to drive the most effective strategies to transform how you engage with your customers. We're very excited about our presenter today, Ernan Roman of ERDM. Ernan's company conducts specialized CX and loyalty research to help companies understand how customers refine their expectations to receive high-value customer experiences. Ernan was inducted into the DMA Marketing Hall of Fame due to the results that his company's VoC research achieved for such companies like IBM and Microsoft, HP and QVC and more. He's been selected for numerous citations, including the top 15 influencer changing the CX game, the top 40 digital luminaries, 100 most influential people in business marketing, and the 2019 Customer Experience Update MVP Award in Vision and Strategy. Ernan has also authored 3 fantastic books about his methodology, and I'm proud to call Ernan a great friend and looking forward to the fantastic insights that he's going to share with us today. Ernan, the floor is yours.
Scott, thank you for your kind words and for the invitation to present this webinar with you. And to our audience, thank you for making the time to join us for this important conversation about transforming trust to drive deep customer experiences in these new times. And what I'd like to cover with you is the following agenda. First, what are the findings from deep voice of customer research regarding, number one, how customers are redefining fundamentally their new customer journey and their new and intensified pain points and requirements for trust and value. Point number two, customers' expectations, really demands, that brands evolve from inferential data to explicit opt-in preference data to drive true relevance, true personalization of the customer experiences, not the generic faux personalization that we've all been living with or administering to date. The second part of the agenda will be to cover, and I think these will be very important points for you, our audience, 7 essential points in the life cycle where customers expect value and personalized engagement. And I hope you'll use that to say, gee, how am I doing in delivering that to our customers? And finally, want to pull it together for you with the incredible brand Shinola, the hip young watchmaker from Detroit, how Shinola has used customer insights to reinvent the customer experience, and in so doing, increase repeat purchase rates 25%. And so with that, we clearly have to put into context the points that Scott and I want to address with you, which is that in this horrendous time of coronavirus, all the previous wishes, all the previous expectations that customers had for better customer experience, for improved and meaningful relationships, those are all being challenged, and they are pushed to much higher levels of expectation. And so this tough time is an opportunity to demonstrate unshakable trust, authentic human understanding, empathy, and to provide our customers with truly personalized communications so we deliver a heightened level of support and value to customers that we should have been doing all along. But now in these scary heightened times, we need to significantly up the game because of the pain that customers are feeling. So that is a point of context for this entire conversation and all the points that Scott and I will be covering. And I wanted to begin with a question of you. And I'd like you to just jot down the answer for yourself. And in a retail info system study, marketing executives like ourselves were asked, which company does personalization best? So just think about which company comes to mind for you, and then just jot down the answer. And so perhaps you've jotted down Netflix, Amazon, perhaps Sephora, etc. Well, the answer from peers like ourselves to that question, which company does personalization best? The answer was no one. And I think you could acknowledge that that is a very accurate answer. No one does personalization well. And at this point in coronavirus time, that is a totally unacceptable place to be. And so what I'd like to do is share with you findings from over 20,000 hours of voice of customer research that our firm has conducted for this mix of clients. And you see Fortune companies, you see B2B companies, you see B2C companies like IBM, Microsoft. You also see younger companies, smaller companies like Shinola, and you see the breadth of 10x Genomics, ultra complex human genomics work to, luxury items like Guild or merchandising like QVC. So it's a broad base of B2B. It's a broad base of B2C data points that I'll be covering. And my hope is that you will listen to these insights and say, wow, if the customers of these incredible brands are feeling that way, what do my customers feel about our CX? And what are the actionable items that I should take away? So hoping that it will stimulate that thinking on your part. And so the first major finding I want to share with you is that the VoC research uncovered 4 universal truths about delivering the optimal customer experience. And a note for you is these are coming from B2B customers as well as B2C customers. So those of you that are B2B, these are absolutely equally representative of what executives are saying. And then point number two, please assume that your customers are likely feeling this way. And therefore, what would you do differently or begin to think about doing differently? So the first point, the chasm that exists between the fantasy that we marketers have about what a great job we're doing with CX versus the reality of what customers are saying they're experiencing is a vast and dangerous chasm. And basically what we're hearing is customers are feeling that they're still getting the same generic spray and pray blasts of email and other messaging. It is not targeted. And even though we spray paint it as AI-driven marketing and CX and all our other fancy marketing buzzwords, the customer experience has not changed. So the chasm is huge. Point number two, customers, particularly millennials and Gen Zs, have unprecedented high levels of expectation about personalized value. Why? Well, look, they better than anyone know how much data is captured when they visit the brand's website or go on mobile or laptop. And therefore, they know how much you're capturing without their opt-in and without their permission. And yet still they're getting lousy CX and personalization. It just frustrates the living daylights out of them. Point number three, this is really big. And when we first started to encounter this, we thought it was counterintuitive. In spite of privacy concerns, customers are willing to provide incredibly deep B2B, B2C preference data. But the operative part here is in exchange for heightened levels of personalization and value. So reciprocity is critical here. And point number four, there are 7 points of value and engagement that customers are looking for across their life cycle. And as we go through this, please think about these 7 points and ask yourself, gee, are we providing value at these 7 points? And what you need to think about as we cover those 7 points is this isn't a one and done. This is a journey. This takes time. It takes commitment. It takes a holistic view of that entire customer experience across your products, your channels, your distribution vehicles, as well as how will you change the corporate mindset to achieve this level of engagement. And so take a look at this. This is a huge set of insights that have emerged from the research. And again, these are 7 critical points in the customer lifecycle where customers want value. So those 7 points are defined by customers in our research as taking place across 3 phases. As you see on the left, initial relationships, in the middle, deepening relationships, and on the right, earning loyalty. So as we look at initial relationships, the first point of engagement is purchase. Particularly in the United States, a sale is often closing a deal, closing a sale. And what we keep hearing in the research is, no, you just opened a relationship. A great quote from the VoC Research sums it up beautifully. Don't worry about improving your renewal process 12 months from now. Focus on how you treat me from the very first moment of the sale, and you'll increase the likelihood that I renew. So change your mindset from closing a deal, you made a kill, move on to the next one, to, hey, you have a golden opportunity at the opening of a relationship. Point number 2, onboarding. So I wish I could see your faces. I'd love to know how many of you have formal onboarding strategies. Based on my experience in delivering keynotes, when I've asked this question in major conferences in the US and overseas, generally the percentage of the audience that raises their hand in saying they have formal onboarding strategies is less than 5%. And yet it is an intuitive, high value, high ROI opportunity. And look, financially, at this point in time, you've just got the acquisition. So your highest acquisition costs have been spent. You're now trying to recoup those and convert to a relationship where the repeat sales will drive revenue. So how do you rethink onboarding to provide the highest levels of value. So now we're moving to the next phase, which is deepening relationships. And point number 3, anticipatory responses. And millennials in particular know how much data marketers are collecting, which I just mentioned, briefly, as customers go on the mobile, on the desktop, etc. Well, if you're collecting all that information, and again, without my consent, then good Lord, use that information and the signals from that information to see that engagement is decreasing. So you can pick up the signals of reduced open rates, reduced click, reduced visits, reduced purchase, reduced cart. All those things are obvious if you pay attention. How do you take those signals and use it to provide greater value to me, as you can see that the love is declining? Point number 4 is immediate response to negative experiences. And some of the VoC quotes have been beautiful here. So, for example, how come the cool technology you use to get me to buy instantly doesn't work so well to fix my problems instantly? And so the point is, if everything about certainly digital is immediate, then how come fixing problems is not immediate? So how do you fix that pain point? Because it is a proof point as to how much you really care about the customer. Point number 5, surprise and delight. And again, I wish I could see you raise your hands. When I've asked in keynotes what percentage of the audience has surprise and delight as a formal strategy, it's about 2%. And that's an incredible miss, because this is one of the highest value, highest ROI opportunities to show care and respect and value for clients. And also in the VoC research, this is not about an expensive gift that people are looking for. It is a simple acknowledgement, a simple human appreciation. Basically, one of the quotes says it beautifully: make me feel appreciated. Be as loyal to me as I am to you. The next one, now we're shifting over to earning loyalty, value-added cross-selling and upselling. So some of the quotes from the VoC research have focused on, don't expect me to know your product line. Why don't you learn what my needs are and now make a personalized recommendation that, Scott, because you've been purchasing red and blue products, I think the green one would be a natural complement. And here's why. So that the green promotion is not a random spray and pray to everybody. It's very targeted to customers based on what they've been consuming. And if that happens, what we hear is that then this is a service that's being provided. This is not a push selling approach. And then in point number 7, personalized repeat sales and renewals is an extension of what I just mentioned in point number 6, which is at the end of the year, at the end of the contract. Show me that you've been keeping track of what I buy, how I use it. So the recommendations for re-upping or repurchasing or purchasing more are made knowledgeably. That will make me feel much better about repurchasing from you. So 7 critical points in the life cycle. And please think about how many of those have you set up as a formal strategy to engage and show value to your customers. So I want to show you a case study from this wonderful company, Shinola. And in case there are some of you in the audience not familiar with them, they're this wonderfully hip, contrarian company started in recent years in Detroit. And just a little bit of brief background. The term Shinola, for those of you not aware of it, in the 40s, there was a term or saying that was applied to people who didn't know what they were talking about. You don't know blank from Shinola. And so the founder of this company, Tom Partsosis, when he spoke to his investment group about starting this company in Detroit to make watches in America by hiring unemployed auto industry workers and thereby revitalizing a city, said, you don't know blank from Shinola. And he said, great, that's what I'm calling the company. I'm going to prove you wrong. So 2013, the first watch was sold. At this point in time, they have a beautiful facility in Detroit, 26,000 feet. They've hired over 600 people worldwide, many of them in Detroit, the unemployed auto industry. Look at this, over 30 people participate in the assembly of a single watch. Having spent a lot of time there in the factory, it is a very loving manual craftsman process. The focus is not on automation. The focus is on hiring skilled labor to lovingly assemble these beautiful pieces. There are 31 very distinctive stores, and they've just opened up a hip new hotel. So, young company, 5-6 years old, when they asked us to do VoC research, and their humility is something I'd like you to think about. They wanted to evolve their loyalty program, saying, gee, it's 5 years old. Our product line has evolved from these beautiful watches to now doing gorgeous leather goods, journals, stunning bicycles, clocks, etc., and jewelry. And however, we want to make sure we're keeping pace with the speed of change of our millennial customers. And so does loyalty, as we've defined it, is that resonating? Are we recognizing, regardless of channel, are we including them in experiences that are aligned to the brand? And are we continuously engaging them through surprise and delight to show that we love them? And so that defined the VoC research objectives, which were to conduct our 1-hour interviews to get in-depth qualitative, not quantitative, understanding of how Shinola guests define their expectations of value and engagement from the loyalty program. And the specific VoC objectives to gain deeply, again, 1-hour conversations, perceptions of Shinola and why guests buy, experiences that enhance the relationship, experiences that hurt the relationship, their perceptions of the Foundry loyalty program, the recommended improvements to the loyalty program. Shinola had been thinking, do they set new levels, new exclusions, new hurdles, new benefits? And the last one, very important to a consistent theme of what Scott and I feel strongly about, is value exchange expectations regarding guests' willingness to self-profile preferences in exchange for increasingly personalized experiences, offers, communications. So if you look at this quote, it represents an amazing level of customer engagement. I feel like you're getting a quality product, almost a work of art, versus just a commoditized watch. That is value to me. If I look at my style, my wardrobe, even my personal brand, I feel like Shinola augments that a little bit, which is why I would consider it a staple in my wardrobe. So that was an interview with a successful entrepreneur, probably a male in upper 30s, and look at this level of engagement that this person is feeling with the product. And so there were 5 key learnings that came out of the research. One, exceptionally engaged guests. So you've seen the Fortune list of companies that we normally work with. The level of engagement of Shinola customers was probably at the highest level that we've seen. However, look at point number 3. They had very strong opinions regarding what is appropriate to the Shinola brand and what is not. And you'll see how that comes around with some very important insights. Number 2, you've got 31 stores. I want to be able to have the Shinola experience, whether it's email, text, chat, 800 number, or your store. Point number 3, think about this, folks. Curate the relationship. Just as you're curating these exquisite watches with the highest levels of craftsmanship and personalization, and I can opt in and get a specific serial number if I want the low serial number. You do amazing things with your products. Make sure your communications are equally well personalized. That's really big. Experiential ROI. Don't make everything about return on the buck. Do things that show love, value, brand integrity, brand engagement. It will pay off, but don't make everything you do about how many watches did I sell in the wine tasting, in the local meet and greet, etc., because that's not going to feel good. Surprise and delight. Show me you love me even if I haven't purchased in a while, because I care about this brand. So think about these 5 takeaways for yourselves. And those of you participating in this webinar who have loyalty programs, this should help you fundamentally rethink every aspect of your loyalty program. For others that don't have loyalty programs, these have huge implications for your overall CX strategies. So,
hey, Ernan, before we go to the next slide, I got a question for you.
Please.
Without a doubt, COVID-19 is currently shaping immediate customer needs and expectations, and in some ways we never could have anticipated. Hopefully the pandemic as we know it will pass. What do you feel the lasting impact the COVID experience will have on marketing? Is it equate to a higher expectation for CX by consumers and partners? And what direction do you see CX going?
It's a great question. I think what coronavirus has done is to lay bare the dissatisfaction that's been lingering, simmering, the frustration that, however, led customers to say, I got to live with it. It's the best they can do. I need their product. Whether I'm hostage or not, I need their product. I can't seem to get them to change. They can't seem to do any better. Man, I'm going to settle. What coronavirus has done with the pressure, the fear, the uncertainty that all of us as marketers are feeling, whether we're on the brand side or on the customer side, this functionality across the board has been laid bare by coronavirus. And things are so painful for brands that per our research, they are now looking to reduce the number of suppliers they work with, the number of partners they have. They're looking to reduce them to have a small, highly trusted group that they feel truly cares about them as B2B or as B2C customers. So there is a winnowing process going down to reduce the number of people I buy from, whether I'm a B2B or a B2C, and looking for higher personalization, trust, authenticity, loyalty, reliability. And so the only positive that I can find in coronavirus is this Darwinian shakeout of the not so fit, not so good, highly arrogant. And this Darwinian shakeout will leave those few good ones standing, but those few being forced to get up to PhD levels of CX, of true opt-in, preference-based personalization in order to stay in the fold of high-value resources, or they will be discarded. That's where I see CX going in this time of coronavirus.
Thanks, Ernan. I appreciate that.
Did I fully answer the question, or were there?
You knocked it out of the park. Thank you.
Okay, good. So, and really, Scott's question is perfectly timed in terms of this slide. So I mentioned earlier that I know customers were particularly and deeply engaged and really connected to the brand. So in our research interviews, and again, these are qualitative, these are hour-long. Our team is former CMOs, so these are very deep conversations. We were talking about the Foundry loyalty program and some of the tiers and hurdles and hierarchy, just like, for you folks, your Delta, your Hyatt, your Marriott, whatever your loyalty programs are that you're used to. And they stopped us and said, wait a sec, that's the wrong direction. And what they said to us is to exclude, to do hierarchy, to be manipulative. That's not consistent with a social mission of a company that cares about revitalizing a city and hiring unemployed people. And so therefore, as opposed to a program based on the traditional hurdles, exclusions, and you get to the top, and if you don't keep buying more, then boop, we stop loving you, go back to the bottom. No, think about an approach that is much more humanistic. And as we heard that, we stopped the interviews, we got the CEO, CMO, president on the phone and said, hey, we're hearing some really important things. We'll do a couple more interviews to validate what's going on, get a body of data, but we think that this is your initial thoughts are going in the wrong direction. Well, you need to reconceive engagement and CX. And so what came out of this was so redid the interview, redid the questions, made it much open-ended to what do you want given your engagement perception of the brand. What came out are 4 expectations, which then became the pillars, the value proposition: surprise, visibility, recognition, inclusion. So let's look at those. recognition. If I buy something, if I buy a $25 pen, a $75 journal, or a $3,000 bike, or a $3,000 audio component, recognize me. Don't just run the credit card. Say thank you, capture the information, and engage with me. Number two, as your story of Shinola is evolving, as you're helping the city of Detroit, as you're hiring more unemployed Americans, tell me about it. Keep me involved in the story. Show me. Tell me what you're doing. Are you hiring more people of color? Are you hiring certain trades that, for example, to make your leather goods, that you're hiring from a different part of the industry? Show me what you are doing with the social mission. And number four, surprise me. Send me a little something. And again, it's not expensive, that says, you know me, you recognize me, your value, I am more than just a transaction. So it has evolved from this. And as you folks are thinking about scaling, rules of engagement. The program has to be simple to understand, to communicate, to execute. Do not make it a rigid program. Market conditions are changing. In this time of coronavirus, man, everything is changing. Be nimble, be flexible about the structure, the reward, the engagement of how you treat customers. Think omni-channel. If we have 31 stores, make darn sure that the customer experience works across all the stores. And absolutely critically is employees, whether it's customer service, whether it's chat, whether it's retail, make them truly feel part of the program, ask for their input, make sure they engage with it and can articulate it, and have them feel empowered as members of this program. So what has evolved through 2018, when we did the research, this was a traditional hierarchical, exclusionary, manipulative stepladder program like all of you have. After the VoC, Shinola changed it to be a horizontal inclusionary program. The levels are not external. So it's not like you're a diamond, a platinum, whatever. You're just a member of the Shinola community. On the left, a one-time purchaser is a member. They have access to benefits. As you move further to the right, you spend more. You become a foundry maker. You become a foundry leader. You have amplified access to the customer experience, but you are always valued. $25 purchaser, or given the number of watches that Shinola customers buy, $3,000, $6,000, $8,000 customer. And then to the point of saying thanks, well, one of the first things that the president of Shinola did was launch a Day of Appreciation. And this was a print ad. We'd like to say thanks. We want to say thanks by naming a day after you. And we can't say it enough. Our foundry is such a valued part of our community, and boom, they talk about what they owe their foundry customers. The results that have come from this new inclusionary strategy, which is not focusing on tier hierarchy, pushing you to spend more, buy more, increased repeat rate from the highest spending segment, i.e. foundry, by 25%. So 25% increase in purchases amongst the highest spending customers by not pushing and shoving, but rather by embracing, and to Scott's question earlier about CX, showing a real love to customers. Point number two, have grown the highest spending group, which are called leaders, by 100% through this inclusionary strategy. And I'd like you to hear the president of Shinola, Shannon, articulate what she feels the value was from the program.
Customers must be viewed as more than the sum or lack of their transactions. Don't make your loyalty program about hurdles, tiers, or spending levels. These do not demonstrate long-term customer commitment. Focus on delivering a powerful brand experience, which demonstrates that you value and care about your customers. And if you do this, customers will respond. Since we fundamentally re-engineered our Foundry loyalty program per the insights from our VoC research, we have seen Foundry member repeat purchase rates increase by over 25%.
So just wanted you to hear from the executive to transform the company by trusting the insights from their customers. So key takeaways. force yourself to think of what the customer wants versus what you want to do to sell more stuff. Think about showing true customer appreciation versus false loyalty, which really means, are you buying enough from me? And point number 3, trust your customers. Trust their knowledge. They know what they're talking about. They know what they expect of you. Trust what they have to say. And so key to trusting the customers, key to earning their engagement is moving to much higher levels of personalization. And we get into a brief conversation here about explicit versus implicit data. As customers want more control over their CX and personalization, we need to shift from implicit data, which is what you're doing now, which is what we're all doing now. We're taking the information that we've data mined, what customers have provided to tell us their short-term, generally transactional needs, and we're projecting it out to say, oh, this is personalization. What we need to do is shift to rethinking data and evolve to explicit data, which is earning the right to self-profile preference information, which customers are opting in very consciously to tell us their preferences via a preference center, via dialog boxes, which, for example, self-described personality type, attitude, life stages, their issues, their needs, their expectations. And again, emphasizing this is both B2B and B2C. What's the decision-making process? What are their preferences? What are their aversions? This becomes the hallmark of the data you need to capture to drive true preference-based profiling and to show you how granular this can be.
Hey, Ernan, before you jump into this slide,
yes.
I have another quick question for you. Prior to the pandemic, some marketing analysts following the evolution and potential of CX observed that efforts to improve customer experience by leading brands have kind of plateaued. And even in many cases, results like customer retention and advocacy have actually regressed. Where do you feel brands have fallen short? Is there an over-reliance on technology, data, measurements like NPS, or are customer expectations for high-quality experiences and personalization outpacing the brand's ability to meet them?
They're really, really important questions, Scott. So my 2-word answer is arrogance and short-term thinking. And what I mean by that is the following. Arrogance, that marketers think they know more than their customers regarding how to define the optimal customer experience, how to deliver the optimal customer experience, and marketers know so much more than customers. So the height of arrogance and paternalism. The next point is short-term thinking, which continues to focus, still in 2020, on immediate sales versus retention and lifetime value. And if short-term sales is the key metric for success, promotion, etc., then you're just going to get the hunt and kill mentality that we're seeing. If LTV, lifetime value, is the key or a key metric, then it forces executives to become much more innovative in delivering high-quality CX, because without the high-quality CX, they will not achieve LTV. And to the other part of your question, Scott, these are really complex issues. You can't outsource the answers to simplistic NPS scores, to simplistic algorithms. And you can't run a complex engine like CX by over-reliance on a simplistic reference point like NPS. It's a fine reference point. It's one of the instruments on the dash, but boy, it's only one of the reference points that you need to run a high-performance CX engine. And all the algorithm and all the other stuff that's been done, I don't knock it, but the over-reliance is dangerous. Data science is fine and it brings important stuff, but it needs to be complemented by an understanding of the human beings that we need to serve. And also, just from a purely empirical point of view, response rates haven't changed in the last 10 or 15 years. The abysmal email lack of response, lack of click, the web abandon rates, the cart abandon rates haven't particularly changed. And so we're doing all this complex stuff, but we're not satisfying the human need, and therefore we're not changing response rates. So we need to change the paradigm.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I totally agree. Thanks, Ernan.
Great. So, very timely, and to Scott's point. So here you have somebody, a Shinola customer. A woman bought a leather item or jewelry, and a guy bought a watch or a lady bought a watch. And then we asked in the interviews, when you say you'd like more personalization and curation of the communication, what do you mean? And what would you be willing to opt in and self-profile? This is what came out of the research. So as you're thinking about your preference center, how much of the preference data you're trying to collect is transactional and basically self-serving? How do I sell you more of X? Versus the preference center name kind of implies, can I learn your preferences? If that is the goal of a preference center, then we should ask preference questions, which we don't in preference centers. So in our research, we have yet to find one preference center that is cited as the best in class. So much like that question I asked at the beginning, who does personalization well? Well, the answer was no one. I can answer the question for preference centers. Who does preference centers well? No one, per the research. So look at what came out of a B2C preference profiling. Customer and gifting information. Who are they? What are their interests? And what you see on the right there, a whole huge aha. Who are they gifting to? Who are they buying to? Is it the kid who graduated college and this is a legacy gift? Is it a spouse? What are their interests? What are the preferred product lines? I am a watch person. I'm a bicycle person. I am an audio person. The type of information. Do I only want promotional? I am passionate about the brand, so I want to get updates about the company. I love the stores. I want store information. Frequency. We've had plenty of people who say, as much as you got, I want to consume it. So as the information is available, I want it. Frequency, only weekly, only quarterly. How do I want it? Here's my email, but the email that I use all the time, not the other one. So this impacts deliverability. Man, I love your watches. You got a new one coming out. Here's my cell. Text me. And you know what? I'd love somebody to actually call me so I don't miss it. So this is what will drive improved CX and personalization. Okay, I like that I'm not inundated with emails because that dilutes the specialness and the effectiveness of them. But it would be nice to say, okay, I'll look at everything once a week in a digest. Go ahead and send me when it comes out. Now, that was B2C. Often we hear from clients, yeah, but B2B, forget it. They're not going to opt in. Well, here, this is a real set of data points, opt-in data points that have come out from recent VoC research that we did for a B2B company. This page tells you what customers, B2B customers, wanted to provide in terms of opt-in information. Look at the depth of contact information. Not only the primary contact, all the others that interact with the company. Look at the communication preferences by situation, by need, by medium. Purchase history, company information. So you, the supplier, understands more about my company and my customers. Learn more about our products. Learn more about our customers. Learn more about our industry. We will go through the work to opt in and give you this information. Furthermore, we also want to help you improve yourself. We will give you detailed levels of feedback about how you are doing in servicing us, and not just a superficial customer sat or MTS. Look at how detailed. How much do you care about us? Well, are you responsive? Do you know? Do you nurture, etc.? What is your business acumen? God forbid you should know and understand our business. How important are you to our business? How do we feel about your price? What are the key issues we have? What is the operational reliability? So key to this is people want deeper levels of CX, per Scott's question, you need to be creative about asking how they are defining personalization in CX, and then understand what a true preference-based relationship is all about. So with that, I want to briefly go through takeaways and have some Q&A. Point number one, the uncertainty that you feel as a human being, that you feel as a business person, that your customers feel is profound. We have no idea where coronavirus is going, except that it's getting worse. So you have never been here before. Your customers have never been here before. Your revenue is down. If there was ever a time to invest in learning more about your customers to ensure the success and viability of your business, now is it. You need to find out how their pain, how their new challenges have evolved, how you can fit in as a value-added provider, or you will go away. Point number two, don't be arrogant. We're dealing with human beings. We are not dealing with personas or cohorts. Solve human requirements. That's the business we're in. Point number three, human data is what makes CX function. Not what you bought, but who you are. Point number four, trust, a point that Scott and I are passionate about. Loyalty and lifetime value are the essence of what we're all doing. You will prove, scale, sustain that by engaging customers across those 7 points in the cycle. And point number five, earning trust is essential. So they will trust you enough to give you the opt-in preference information, which is what's essential to getting to this heightened level of CX and value. With that, I want to stop, answer questions. There's additional information for you. You can request this by clicking on the email or emailing to that link below and request the presentation, any of this information. But at this point, I'm going to stop, take questions from Scott, take questions from you folks.
Ernan, thank you. This was amazing. I mean, I really appreciate your time and your friendship. And before we toss it over to the rest of the folks attending the webinar, I have a couple questions for you. Number one, trust is a core value of PossibleNow. And through our work with our customers, we see how a strong, authentic customer relationship depends and revolves around trust. Do you see trust as a differentiator, one that brands can leverage and build into a competitive advantage?
Great question. And the answer is absolutely. The key to delivering high-value CX and the proof point to customers, as we hear in the research, is that there is authentic, there is credible, there is sustainable personalization. That's the embodiment of them being able to trust you and trust you over time. You cannot get that level of opt-in to drive the personalization without people trusting your brand. So trust is a function of, do you have fair policies? Are you honorable with customer data? Do you listen to their requests? Well, first of all, do you respect them enough to ask them for their input? Then, are you humble enough to act on their request? And then with all of this, are they able to see demonstrable proof points that they're trusting you, which then led them to opt in and provide more information, gave you the guidance to get up to PhD level of personalization, which then reinforces the trust they put in you, which then encourages them to give you more and updated information, hence progressive profiling, which will sustain your ever-increasing circle of better personalization, which then reinforces trust. So all of this is a fundamental human issue of trust. Mm-hmm. How do you earn it? How do you safeguard the information you're asking for? How do you pay it off with very tangible and scalable personalization? So trust is the driving gear of this whole set of components in the CX transmission.
Totally agree. Totally agree. I have one more question for you. We view a well-designed humanistic approach to collecting customer insights, preference, and consent as an opportunity for companies to bring a higher level of trust, transparency, and engagement with their customer relationships. What are some of the ways you've seen clients and brands use this collaborative approach to deeper dive into engaging with their customers? And how important is transparency between the brand and the consumer?
That's great. One of the first epiphanies we had in this context of your question was doing some work for IBM, the CEO at the time, with their CIO enterprise customers. And one of the things that had come up in a previous VoC we had done for IBM is how dissatisfied the CIOs, SVPs were with IBM's lack of understanding of their needs, of their requirements, and certainly is evidenced by totally useless communications and promotions. And one of the things that came up in that research was, you don't know who we are. And if you don't know who we are, then how can you serve our needs? Because all you're going to do is just be stuck in the same mode of selling, but you're not providing value. And so one of the things we were asked to do is do a VoC on how much information would you be willing to provide, Mr. or Ms. CIO, SVP, et cetera. And one of the things that came out of that research was, IBM, it is clear you do not know very much about us, even though you might have a campus at the headquarters of Ford or Chrysler or Grumman or whatever, because we're an enterprise customer. You still don't really know our needs. Fine. We will trust you because you're IBM. We will answer all sorts of opt-in profile questions, trusting you that you will use our insights, our preferences, our consent to deliver much higher value. And now let's talk about what you need, IBM, to get to a higher level of personalization. And we can discuss what we're able to share with you and what we can't. And so in that preference profile that I just showed you, the B2B one, the 2-page one, that has its roots in work we did with IBM going back 10 years to understand that if we're honest with a brand's customers and say, we need your help, we need your guidance, we can't get this information. This is not list rental information. This isn't an algorithm. This isn't a whatever. We need it from the individual so we can solve the individual's needs. And with that information, we promise to send you better communications, better insights for your team. It will help us develop better products, et cetera, et cetera. And so the honesty, we can't succeed without your help. Please trust us to ask the right questions or help us steer to better questions, and trust we'll use the data honorably. That is the essence of getting to PhD level personalization. And it is essential now, Scott, at a level it never was before because of coronavirus.
Sure. That's great, Ernan. Thank you so much.
Great question. Thank you for that. And now happy to take questions that folks would have sent in, and let's see how we can respond to your additional questions and thoughts and concerns.
Yeah, let's do it. Thanks, Ernan. Thanks, Scott. That was a ton of great detail for a short amount of time that we actually gave you guys. Hey, everyone, I'm Phil Trapani with the PossibleNow team, and I'm going to be jumping in to help us out with this Q&A session. So I know we don't have too much time, and there's been quite a few questions that have come in and have really started to excite some of our team here. So let's go ahead and jump in, and I'll start with this one. I did like it when it came in. Ernan, I thought of you, and we'll start there. Scott, feel free to add to it. But how does a B2B business implement a personalized loyalty program?
That's a terrific question. What is, you saw with the Shinola case study there, a major aha from the VoC research, which surprised the executive team and CEO, CMO, was that the loyalty program had to be in alignment with how customers perceive the brand. And so therefore, important to look at this, particularly since loyalty programs are viewed so poorly amongst millennials and Gen Zs. And by the way, that's data we've gotten from B2B research as well. And so the issue of manipulative is a very important one that we've heard. And so therefore, from a B2B point of view, find out how customers view a loyalty program relative to your brand. So how do they perceive your brand? And if we're talking a B2B loyalty program, what we've seen in research is, wait, so is the loyalty program going to reward me, Ernan Roman, individual, or does the loyalty program reward me as, VP marketing, and therefore it's more an office, a business reward? And in some cases, depending on their perception of the brand, they may feel very strongly that they do not want a personal reward mechanism in the loyalty program. Rather, they wanted to go to the office to help out. And also then you get into the issue of what's the size? Is it an SMB? Is it an enterprise? What are some of the rules regarding being able to accept rewards and gifts? And if so, over what amount? So these are all the things you need to understand relative to a B2B loyalty program. So in summary, therefore, how does it align with their perception of the brand and their relationship and expectation of the brand? How does it align relative to a B2B environment in terms of, are you rewarding the individual? Are you rewarding the office? What are some rules around that? And then the appropriateness or value or motivational impact of some of the rewards components. So that's a quick thumbnail, given that we have limited time. And I see it's John. John, feel free to email me and happy to give you some additional depth on this.
Thanks, Ernan, and thanks, Scott. Well, I think that's the end of our time. I know that might have cut us off. For those that are still on and can hear us, thank you for the questions. We know there are several. We want to make sure that those questions get answered. We can send some follow-up after this webinar is shared. And Ernan said it, for some of the people that did have specific questions, reach out to us and we'll be good to go. Last thing is, thanks everybody for joining us. I know you're wondering if you're going to get access to this link in this webinar. You absolutely will. Immediately afterwards, we will send this link to you. And please feel free to reach out to us if there's any questions or things that come up since the things we reviewed today, or maybe just things that you can't sleep on. Feel free to reach out to us, and you can reach us at info@PossibleNow. Thanks, everyone, and I hope you have an awesome rest of your day.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.